Hello, I'm Officer Hill with LAPD. As a representative of the City of LA, it's incredibly important for me to be in touch and constantly communicate with the community, especially when it comes to challenges we are facing today, such as diversity, recruitment, and public safety. Today, we have Officer Renita James and two community members here to discuss their experiences, what they've heard, seen, and what they want from their police department. We're expecting to tackle some important topics and hope that we can learn together and come away with a better understanding what needs to be done to make our city a better place.
What would you say the benefit is of having people from the community come back and serve within that same community?
I feel it is a major benefit to have your LA natives come back and to patrol their streets and work their very own streets in which they grew up in as Los Angeles police officers, meaning the fact that I myself and my partner are from the Los Angeles area. I come from an athletic background. I play sports in the LA city. That sport has allowed me to travel to many corners of this city and meet various amount of people. I used to party in these streets. I used to drive these freeways from the 110 freeway to the 10, the 101. I've dealt with LA traffic. I've been with a lot of people within our community. And to come back as an officer, it's surreal in a sense because I came from many backgrounds stepping into these same households on a day-to-day basis, answering radio calls. And I feel that being an LA officer and coming back to these streets where I once grew up in, I feel it actually molds that gap that we want between this bridge in the community and policing so we can actually attack the problem head on because we actually do get what it's like on both sides of the spectrum.
Do you think it builds like a different level of trust within you and the people that you're interacting with?
Yeah, most definitely. Only due to the fact that we can relate. People get frustrated with the things they don't understand. So when people deal with officers, a lot of encounters that people have with officers may be their first time, or they may have a lot of negative encounters, even positive ones at that. So for a police officer that actually knows what it's like to be in those same shoes, it makes it easier to earn that trust. It makes it easier to have these conversations because most of the time, the job is 80 to 90% communication. It's not enforcing.
Like my partner said, we were once in those shoes, so we know how it is to live in not the best neighborhoods, how to watch your back in different scenarios or different streets, or just being aware of the problems that are going on. And I guess being cognizant that I've been there before. I want you to know I've been there and I got out. If you want to know how to get out of it, I can show you. If you just want me to be your friend that happens to wear a uniform, I can do that. Just knowing that I'm a person behind this uniform. And so showing that, look, I grew up on Manchester and Western. Look, I know this, I know that. I'm no different than you. I just have this profession and I'm just here to do my job, which is protect and serve you. That's all it is.
I do also feel like just in general to feel safer, I think it would be nicer if we knew our officers. Like, I don't think it should always be like a emergency situation. I want to also be able to talk to someone like, what should I do in this scenario? Or like, what would you recommend as this being the best way? Like having a face versus it always being like a 911 non-emergency and it's like you're on hold and it just feel like, I think if we knew more of like a community catalyst or someone who could be like our point of reference, or even if it's a non-officer and we have like, I know people have neighborhood watches, but some of those aren't as successful as others. But I think if we had a point of contact that could be like me and you calling you now going forward, where I could be like, hey girl, this happened, like what's the best way and like how can we prevent this from happening going forward? I feel like the relationships could be a lot more stronger versus 911 being my only person to call.
So maybe workshops that you can have, like how to do this safely or
and then like after the workshops, like even if I could send you an email, like this happened, I don't think it's something I need to make a huge deal out of it, but I want to flag it in case anyone else has reached out to you about it. Maybe we can make it into something down the line where it is a workshop here in this area, but just having someone to communicate with and get feedback and just feel like I have a big sis I can call up and be like, girl, this happened to me today. Or vice versa for men as well. I think that sometimes people don't want it to be a full escapade where you're showing up in your full work uniform. I think sometimes it could be a casual scenario where I know it's probably your off day or something or things like that, but just having a point of contact or someone where you can communicate things that are going on that maybe aren't as extreme as like I was robbed or, you know.
I think also, I'm sorry just to interrupt, but I think that is a great way to even bring it up, because I'm sure with banking apps that I'm pretty sure everyone has, they have somewhere where you could do like a security chat.
Right.
And
Yes.
there's somebody's job to specifically sit there
Yes.
and answer all of the questions you need.
Right.
So instead of, like you say, being put on hold for a non-emergency because all you want to do is just sync simple advice,
Yeah.
we should have somewhere where LAPD could possibly
Right.
implement that and facilitate to where we can have an officer whose job is to specifically talk to any citizen that needs help, whether emergency or non-emergency. Now, of course, that conversation through the chat
Yeah.
is, you know, a
Yeah,
little bit
we
more
might
than,
need to escalate this.
yeah, like,
But-
yeah, we might need to send somebody over.
But truthfully, yeah, there's times where it's like, that was weird, but it's like, do I need to call 911 about it? You just swallow it and keep it moving. So I think it could be nice. I mean, it might be a barrier for you guys or whoever's on the other end of that computer, like getting a lot of random miscellaneous conversations. But I think if we found a way to structure it properly, it's similar to like advice nurses with doctors. Why can't we have advice officers or somewhere where we can feel like a comfortable conversation can be had?
Yeah, because even for officers who aren't serving in communities that they're from, like, it's really just about building the relationship, getting to know each other so that there is some type of human interaction happening here, you know? So
Yeah, and I don't know how your guys' days go. Like, we're
Yeah.
speaking like y'all got time to do this. But I do feel like sometimes, like, in your day-to-day, like, when you are patrolling or, like, going around communities, like, what are ways that maybe, like, a chunk they allocate of your day to spend to community awareness or something? I don't know how much that even is.
And we do even have officers who do that.
Okay.
For specific, we have community relations officer, for which my partner used to be a community
Okay,
relations
cool.
officer. And also, when we're on patrol, don't get me wrong, the radio goes off all day.
I believe that. That's
There's
why I was like, I don't want
hundreds,
to add
but
to your
then-
workload.
No worries. But there is something for us. We call it community policing. So if I see a group of kids playing basketball or football, or if I just want to drive around and talk to people, because
Yeah.
I love talking to people on patrol.
Right.
Like, that makes the day go by so much better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that bridging that gap and humanizing that badge.
Yeah.
We're trying to humanize the badge. So how can we make ourselves more approachable to the community? Because like you say, when people see the uniform, they kind of tense up, or they look the other direction. And you know, we're trying to find a better way to do that.
Before we answer that, I want to understand a little bit more about the community relations officers. What exactly does that day-to-day look like? Maybe we're not seeing it firsthand, and there is stuff happening, and we just don't see it.
So luckily, I was able to work in community relations office. So you probably don't see it because it's not put on social media. That's why people probably don't see it. But you have like community meetings. So every Thursday, you might have a meeting with a certain community. So like Merck Park might be on Thursdays.
Okay.
You talk about the problems that you guys are having there, or how we can bridge the gap between officers. If you want officers in that area at that time because you guys have crime in that area, we can do that.
Okay.
Or I got the privilege of working with cadets. So everyone knows what cadets are, or explorers. So basically, it's just us mentoring or being the big brother and big sister, showing the human side. Like, I'm just a small town girl living in a small town world type thing, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just showing that I'm a person just like you are. So you do little outings, Disneyland, go on sports, go on runs, just showing them different aspects of an officer. It's not all about the uniform. It's not all about being in a black and white patrol car. It's not responding to radio calls, but it's just having that one-on-one contact with a 13-year-old about life problems that 13-year-olds are having.
what would you like to see from the community to help you do your job better?
Honestly, I just want the community to be a little patient with us. Because for us that are from here, we were just like you. We were not in this uniform at one point. I've had multiple jobs prior to putting on this uniform. And just a little patience, because at the end of the day, we're human and communication is key. So when we find that bridge and when we're able to communicate with one another and just take the time to say hi. Just take the time to say hi, because trust me, we're at work for 12 hours. We want to say hi too. We want to see smiles out of you guys too, because we may have came from a radio call where we've seen someone lose a deceased in their family.
Yeah.
You know, we may have came from a radio call where somebody was calling us all type of colorful names, because I've heard everything under the book in this uniform. So just to get that smile and appreciation from the community, it's the first step. And that first step can go a long way, for sure.
Yeah.
Giving
Yeah.
grace.
How would you say being an LA police officer has benefited your life and like the quality of life benefits do you see improvement since you became an officer?
I would say a more appreciation for life
Okay.
and the stuff that I have in my life. Like, because you see so much as an officer, you start to appreciate the small stuff. Like just going home to your kids and see your kids run to you, or like getting that phone call of somebody getting like an achievement, or like I have cadet, like I said earlier, I worked with cadets, and having them call me and tell me, oh, Officer James, I did this, I accomplished this, like we finally did it. Just hearing that type of stuff, it makes me appreciate this job even more. So I think it has bring like a quality to Officer James and me being an officer and having whatever, like if it was just a little bit of help that I helped them with.
Yeah.
Just knowing that I just did this, or we did this as a team. This conversation led to that. Like having this conversation right here is like, man, we just bridged a gap that we didn't even know that we had between each other. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So we
It's a service.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's benefits of just being an officer, or?
Well, on my off days, I actually volunteer. So,
Oh, nice, cool.
I am a part of Operation Progress, which is in Watts.
Okay.
Which basically it bridges the gap between the youth and officers.
Okay.
So, I'm lucky enough to be a mentor to 2 young ladies. I've been with them since they were 7.
Okay.
They're 13 now.
Oh, cool.
So, I basically get to watch them grow as women, as individuals, as students, as scholars, and basically just seeing them grow, helping them in any way that I can, and showing them that not like I'm an officer, yes, okay, yes, that's
But
my
they get to
job.
see the other
but
side.
they see the other side. They see
Yeah.
my comedian side because I'm a little bit funny,
Yes.
and then they get to see like all that other stuff that people don't get to see when I go to radio calls, because I'm just coming. Like sometimes when you're on radio calls, all they want you to do is handle the problem, and that's it. They don't want to. This is what I went through. This is how I did it.
Right.
But they don't want that. Sometimes they just want us to get in and get out. That's it. That's all.
Right.
And sometimes it's like being able to be outside of work and kind of help people with the root of the problem, because I have the resources to
Yeah.
do that. It's cool.
Yeah, and also another thing that the department helps out with as well too is, the salary base.
Right.
We start off making $70,000 a year, and then of course within that 2-year range, you
Right.
can make up to $100,000 a year.
Right.
Got it.
People sign up for things because, yeah, of course, the values that come with it, but on top of that, people want to support their families as well
Right.
too financially.
Right.
So this job has helped me do numerous amount of things. Before I did this, I was a bouncer. I had 3 jobs just to maintain the
Yeah,
pay,
your
the single
life.
pay,
Right.
just to handle the life I'm able to handle now in terms of financially. I was a bouncer. I did retail at Bevmo. I did security guard at Stanford when I used to live in the Bay Area. So I had multiple jobs just to amount to what I'm making now, and the schedule's really flexible. So I could work as much as 3 days out the week for an amount of 12 hours. So it's 3 12s. You could work 4 10s. There's over 300 different jobs
Right.
that you can choose
Right.
from. So if you don't want to work patrol, if you don't want to drive around, you can fly the helicopter. You can
Okay.
do detectives. You can work vice, narcotics.
Right.
I used to work the bike unit, so I used to ride the bike up Venice Beach Boulevard and deal with, of course, the issues they have in the Pacific Division area of Los Angeles Police Department. I used to work in Hollywood, where I used to see the stars and celebrities all the time. So the
Yeah.
job comes with a lot of things, and you get to interact with people that you probably would never known you would interact with, or even being part of the cities that you never know you ever travel.
You brought up a good point with the salaries and like benefits of being an officer. The prereqs. Do you mind like explaining? Because I really don't understand the prereqs, and I think that's kind of important for people to know. Like, do you have to have a college degree? Is there like physical training you
Right,
have to
right,
pass?
right.
Like, I want to get a better understanding of what that is.
So you just need a high school diploma.
Okay.
Luckily, our department actually allows you to go back to school, and they support that.
Oh, cool.
So they give you like a little, I guess, incentive to go back to school.
Okay.
So you can just come in high school diploma. You have to be 20 years of age to apply.
Okay.
And then we have resources to help you physically get able for the academy and for the job in itself.
How long is the academy?
It's 6 months.
6 months.
Okay.
But it's 6 months for us. It's like we have like a different type of calendar, but 6 months in.
Yeah, six months in the academy itself, and then you're considered on probation after outside the academy. So you do your 6 months in the academy, and then you'll have a choice to pick out of the 21 divisions we have within the department where you want to do probation at.
Oh, cool. So like a little trial.
Yeah, like a trial. So you know how the sheriffs, I don't know if you hear, but they start off in the jails.
Oh, okay.
With LAPD, we start off in the streets on our probationary period. So
Okay.
you're learning right out the chute the things you learned in the academy, which is our police officer school. So you'll learn pretty much the basic training, and you'll get more of a hands-on feel of the things, of everything you learned in the academy. Right. As far as, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, do you guys feel like it should be longer than 6 months?
No. Personally, I don't, because you only can teach so much in a classroom.
Correct.
So, I mean, you can go through
That's a valid
PowerPoints,
point.
Yeah.
you can go through this scenario, but until you hit those streets and you go out to a call and like you graduate on Friday, right? My first day at work was Sunday.
Yeah.
So I literally had one day to be a regular person, then the next day I was an officer running on Gibraltar.
Okay.
So it's just like, you know, you learn so much more when you do like the practical part.
Yeah.
So I would say no. I mean, we can always go to different trainings, which we do. We have
Right.
trainings like all the time while we're actually just in the field.
Okay.
So I would say no in that aspect, because you learn way more going
Because the
hands-on.
learning doesn't stop.
Right.
So even though you're done with the academy and you're in these streets, we still have to self
Right.
yeah, we still have to self-educate ourselves
Right.
to the penal codes, because there are hundreds and thousands
Right.
of penal codes we need to learn.
Yeah.
The rules change every day.
Right.
Search and seizures change
Right.
every day.
Right.
Everything changes. So it's
Right. I think it's being open to learning too.
Yeah, you have to be
because
open.
like somebody that's been on this job for 20 years has a certain amount of knowledge, but somebody with 5 years with the department has a certain amount of knowledge. So learning from each other.
ladies, what will it take for you to apply for Los Angeles Police Department now that you've personally met officers?
I think I would like more education on the types of roles that are available. I think similar to military, people immediately think like you're a frontline soldier, where there's admin, there's, you know, cooks, and like, you know, there's more to the full military system. I would want to know those other 21 or all those 21 departments that are available, so that I know I have options to still make a difference, but not necessarily have to be a patrol officer. Just for me personally, and just knowing who I am as a person, like I'd go to a site and like be like, it's okay, and not like arrest anyone. Like I'm not good for that. But I do know that there's other positions where I may thrive, like the marketing department. But I don't think a lot of people know those exist, or how to get to them. So I think a little more awareness of opportunities. I think pay-wise, it's possible to still make a job coming in at a 70K rate. I think for the risk and the, you know, the danger that officers are in, they should be paid more. And then also, I think there would need to be emphasis on benefits and just like understanding, like we do mental health, we make sure that, and I think those things exist. It's just a lot of times it's not promoted. And I think just information sharing really is the biggest thing. But in regards to just the future and like my nieces and nephews and young people, I think making it more human. Like we talked about earlier in the conversation of just, you know, those meetings and attending, or more camps that the police officers host, to make it see that like this could be a role where I'm making a difference, and I don't have to be so structured as like black and white. There's a gray area where you can be human and be still able to like interact with the community. But yeah, the pay is huge, to reiterate that. And then also just knowing what else is out there, and maybe even a more stricter onboarding process. Because I know we talked about the 6 months of training, but I think that even though being in the field is like a great learning, like back when I was in sales, that was the only way you really know how to close a sale, was trying to sell something to someone in real life. I think that there should be more conversations about the different neighborhoods and what things are specific to it in that. I don't know if that's even a thing right now, but with your academy, like making sure that there's conversations about police brutality and what's happened in the past historically, to make sure people have an understanding of like, we're not playing that anymore. Like this is a very hard line. Not saying that doesn't happen now, but we don't know. So I would need that to be like one of the pillars, almost even a part of the program structure, to know that my community is being thought of when people are onboarded, so that we don't have that confusion, and that it's just kind of a clear barrier of what happens once you get in the field. So I think the human part, and then just knowledge of what other roles exist, because I know they're there, just don't know them.
Yeah, they're there, and
Yeah.
like I said earlier, to touch on, you really don't know what you're getting into until you step into the department. And you
Right.
see the diversity, all of the different training we have to offer, all of the resources, medical, the dental. We have counselors, who are therapists that talk to officers when they go through something. We have a league that we pay for that allows us to have lawyers, attorneys when we're going through some type of family problems and, you know,
Right.
legal custody issues with kids. We have all these different things, but we don't know until we get in here and reach out for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of jobs are that way, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think since it is a public serving and like because of the disconnect that's kind of happened between the communities, even for women, like you're honestly my first Black female officer I've ever met. So like after this, I'm gonna have a million more questions, right? But like I think that maybe just having more, kind of like how colleges show up senior year and try and do recruiting, maybe having more of those types of, and they might already exist, but I never saw it when I was younger in college and in high school, but just more conversations that make it more human and more like, because if I saw a police officer on my campus, something's wrong. That's
Right,
immediately
right,
what
right.
triggers in my mind, like what happened? Is someone in trouble? It's like versus, oh, she's just checking in on
Right,
us today
right.
to make sure everything's going well. I think changing that shift of people's vision of like officer means something wrong
Right.
versus like officers here, let's find out why, or you know, not necessarily immediately thinking something's wrong.
What type of officers do you think we need to be recruiting? And if so, what are you looking for in terms of what these officers should have in terms of moral values or even characteristics?
I feel like the dream person would be a coach, truthfully, because I feel like coaches have a way to communicate with people, to motivate them, to implement corrective behaviors. I think coaches, they have that knack for being able to motivate and encourage people while still change their path or trajectory in a better way. And so yeah, people with that type of mentality that want better but also know how to communicate it. Because I think there's times where like there's problems and an officer will come and the way it's handled, like that could have, after reviewing that could have been said in a way where that person left the situation feeling like, okay, I was wrong, or I did something maybe that could have been better, and they provided that insight. Whereas sometimes, I know the job is hard and can be difficult, but I feel like sometimes maybe that just one moment to just kind of trigger that, all right, let me approach this. My buzzword today is human, but either way, but I feel like they do a great job of making you feel like I can still be better after this accident happened or this mistake was made. So I immediately think of coaches. Those would be the best fit people that know how to mentor and like manage up or manage down in different scenarios, I think are the best fit.
I think for me, I think I would just want to see the people in the field and people that are the officers that are interacting with the community. I would like to see a reflection of the community. Like I want it to look like people, you know, that you're serving. You know, I want it to be diverse, like people who are open-minded, people who have an education on what the history is, people who, you know, aren't ignorant to all the are open-minded to all the perspectives that they may come across, and people who are, you know, just good people.
We have an extensive background process that goes through everything. So if people don't lay out the skeletons in their closet when they apply, of course, those skeletons eventually come out, and that's what we tell people when they do apply.
Right.
Make sure your conscience is clear. Make sure you're hanging around good people. Make sure that when you decide, when you wake up that day that you want to be a police officer, make sure that you're doing the right things then. From, of course, hanging out with people you don't need to be hanging around with, whether it's your proper diet and health, your training, you're getting ready, or you're doing your research on what police officers do. You're watching videos to make sure that your common sense is there so that when it comes time to maybe use some type of force, that you're making the right choices. So we're looking for all these values in terms of people, and we want humans. We want to humanize the badge. We want people who are coming in for the right reasons. All right, ladies, I just want to thank you all for coming out today and, of course, addressing your concerns and questions that you have with us, and actually finally get to meet police officers with the department.
Yes. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we need to do more of this, most definitely, because, of course, we had a lot of great conversations.
And then also, if you know anybody that wants to join LAPD, or if you guys have any other questions about joining the department or any, like, what we do as officers, you can always go to joinlapd.com, or you can contact Recruitment Division, and we can answer any questions that you guys might have.
Yes, thank you so much.
No worries.
I know. You're welcome. Thank you.